I'd like to welcome you to this presentation about New Voices Middle School. This year's a very interesting year in terms of the middle school process with COVID and there being no tours. It's been a lot more challenging for parents to get information about the middle schools that they normally would have been able to get very easily in the past. I hope this video does help many of you out there by giving you answers about this school. We're doing this as a recording on the website to allow parents the ability to be able to watch this at their own pace whenever they choose and not to be locked into a specific live time. So I hope that this presentation gives you enough information about our school to help you to make a decision about whether or not this may be a good fit for your child. I'd first like to wish everyone success in this process. I hope that everyone out there is safe and healthy, and I hope that this pandemic ends soon so that we can get back to the business of educating our children. And that is first and foremost in all of our minds, all the middle school principals. So I just wanted to first say that. Now, in terms of new voices, I am starting with a bunch of frequently asked questions about the school day before I get into the programs. We do start at 8:15 in the morning. We are located at 330 18th Street. We are down the block from another middle school, MS 88. So we are in the middle of the block. We are the red brick building. If you've never been here, in terms of the two schools, we do work together in terms of AM arrival and PM dismissal. We try to stagger our arrivals and dismissals this way. There isn't that large of a group of children at any given time in the neighborhood, so that it just facilitates mass transit and parents picking up and dropping off and so on. Now, I had said that we're at 330 18th Street. We do share a building with an elementary school, which is PS 295. We are two separate entities. They occupy half the building, all of the first floor, half the second floor. We occupy half the second floor and the entire third floor. We enter the building and exit from 18th Street, where PS 295 enters and exits through 19th Street. Now, middle school, and if this is your first middle school child, is a little different than the elementary school in terms of the structure of the day, the periods, and so on. Children at New Voices have 8 45-minute periods. Every morning they have an AM homeroom and they also have a PM homeroom in the afternoon. The school is structured in a way that we have tried to facilitate movement between classes. The sixth grade has their wing of the building, the seventh grade has their wing, and the eighth grade has a separate wing, so that it facilitates and allows children to travel from class to class, which they do independently. They do not travel with the teacher. They are going to be moving on their own. Now, lunch is always a question. Lunch is served inside the building. Children can either bring their own lunch or they can get lunch from our cafeteria. Lunch is free of charge. Children do not leave the building for lunch. The reason why is we don't have the facilities in our neighborhood for that. And also, myself as a parent, I am concerned for my own children if they were released for lunch. And I don't put other people's children in a position that I wouldn't put my own. And it's just a matter of preference and what I feel comfortable with. And it's not an indictment of any system or at all. And please don't misunderstand my rationale. I'm very protective of our children here at New Voices, and I want to be able to watch them and keep them safe. And if they're out and about in the neighborhood, there's no way for me to physically do that, nor my teachers. So it's just a matter of preference. And like I said, we don't have the businesses in the neighborhood to even think about something like that. Now, in terms of the school day, we do have remediation and after school classes after school ends, and school ends at 2:35 in the afternoon. And I'm going to be speaking about the after school programs a little bit more as we progress through this video. Now, in terms of coursework, I wanted to first start speaking about the academic piece that the sixth graders will have, and the arts pieces. Many of you know New Voices as being an art school, and we definitely are an art school. But some of you might not be aware that we do have a very strong academic component to New Voices. The job of the middle schools is to get the children ready for high schools, first and foremost. Whether that is going to be the arts high schools or the academic high schools, I would probably say most of our children go on to the purely academic high schools. Those children that wish to pursue studying an art form in the high schools, they are well equipped to do so and to gain admissions into those schools. But for the most part, I would say probably about 60% of our children go on to the academic high schools, such as Stuyt, Brooklyn Tech. Murrow has been our largest school that we've fed into in the past, I would say, 7 years or so. Also, a number of our children will go to Brooklyn Millennium. They may end up going to Midwood. Many of the kids will go to schools that are appealing to them, something that uh, they have something to offer that the children really are passionate about. So that's where I'm finding most of our children going to in terms of the academic schools. For the art schools, a large number of our children gain admission to LaGuardia or Professional Performing Arts, or to Talent Unlimited, or to Brooklyn High School of the Arts, and so on. So we do have a great representation of New Voices students in the high schools throughout the city of New York. In terms of our coursework as sixth graders, because as a parent, I would be concerned with what is my child going to be studying in the sixth grade and so on. The coursework at New Voices can be separated into four different categories. Every child has a humanities class, every child has a math class, every child has a science class, and all the children have arts classes. Now, in the sixth grade, the art program looks a little bit different than it will look in the seventh and the eighth grade. And I'm going to um, start to talk about that piece where the sixth graders will get all six of our art forms that we offer. They will have visual arts, dance or STEM, graphic arts, chorus or theater. And to facilitate this, the children are separated into two groups. Group one will get the three: visual, dance, STEM. Group two, graphics, chorus, and theater. Half the year, the group is in that cohort of arts classes. And then midway through the year, the children switch. Group one becomes group two, two becomes one. So that at the end of the year, all of the children have an understanding and a foundation in each of the arts classes. And also, they are gaining an appreciation of each of these art forms. I never want children to think about coming to New Voices and only getting one art form. It's really important for us to broaden their horizons and to expose children to all of the beauties of each of these classes. Now, some of you out there may look at STEM and say, well, STEM really isn't an art class. I beg to differ. I am the principal of New Voices. I'm also um, a science teacher here at New Voices, and I believe that the STEM program really combines what they know in science, and also combines it to the artistic piece, the scientific thought process, being able to create with their hands and their minds, and taking concepts and now bringing it to life. And that's really what our STEM program is about. And I'll speak more about that when we get to each of the individual art classes. Now, in terms of special ed, we do offer ICT classes. We do have SETS classes. Some of you may refer to as resource room. And we do offer related services such as counseling, speech, and OT here in the building. Many of our children are getting other services outside of school where we don't have a provider for, such as PT. And that is something that we work with the parents to get them an RSA so that they can contract it out. Please know that we do not have self-contained classes here at New Voices. All children who have an IEP for self-contained classes have to be able to function in an ICT class because we do not have the physical space to have self-contained classes. We are a small school. We currently have less than 600 children. We have about 18 classes in total. And like I said earlier, we do share a building with the elementary school. So space is limited here. So please note this in terms of our special ed programs. Now, being that we're an art school, much might not be known about our academic program. And I want to start with the academic piece and then go into each of the art classes so that you understand what really this entails. Now, each of the children, like I said, will have a humanities class. Now, the humanities class is a combination of the reading workshop, the writing workshop, and also social studies. The three different disciplines are merged into one. When we teach social studies, it'll be through text, it'll be through literature. Children are looking at the social studies curriculum that New York State has laid out thematically. We're not going in a sequential order. So we're looking at bigger concepts and how these issues affect their lives. Very much so what we would do in a reading workshop with novels, with primary sources, and so on. We've done the same thing with our social studies curriculum. Now, in terms of what children are reading in the humanities classes, the children are leveled by the teachers. They are reading books at their level, but we also believe here at New Voices in whole grade novels. And when I say whole grade novels, I do not want people to misunderstand and think that some children will have other books. All children during those time periods are reading the same book. And we tend to pick books that are above the children's level, and we are scaffolding those books so that children can get an appreciation of those texts and also to push children's thought process and also to push them in terms of their reading ability. So, to give you an idea of some of the books that we do read, in the seventh grade, our seventh grade teachers have a study on the book Animal Farm, which some of you may have read it in high school. It is traditionally a high school level text, but what we do with Animal Farm and the same thing what we do with some of, I'm sorry, not some, all of the other whole grade novels is we're trying to put it into context with the history that they're studying at that time. Now, Animal Farm is a book that was written about the Russian Revolution and communism, but we're not looking at it in terms of that. We're looking at the power struggles of the characters on the farm, and we're making connections to what children are seeing in early US history between certain groups in society and how some groups had power and other groups did not have power, and the friction that that caused between the two different groups, and how US history will progress from those points and looking at how laws were passed to rectify certain situations, how reformers came along and try to effect change. I'm sorry, affect change in society. So we're trying to put these books into a larger context so that children can get some meaning and also start to look at the past and also current conditions in US history. So we do use those books for those purposes. Like another book that we are using in the eighth grade is Of Mice and Men when we're studying the Great Depression, because it really highlights what individuals were going through at that time in US history. So when we do these books, it is for a purpose, and we're trying to broaden children's horizons in terms of the type of books that we're asking them to read, and also to push them in terms of their thinking skills critically, so that children can look at a text and be taught how to analyze a text and how now to make connections between the text that they're reading and what's going on in their lives today, and also looking at what happened in people's lives in the past. Humanities is one teacher. Children will be in humanities 2 to 3 periods a day, where they have a great deal of time with the material, with the teacher, to really dive in and to push themselves academically and with regards to reading, writing, and the social studies. Now, our foreign language is French. It is something that it is a class that all eighth graders will take. They will have it 4 times a week. We are a small middle school, so that is the only foreign language that we offer. Some parents have asked me in the past, well, why French and not Spanish or not another language? And it's a very simple answer. All of the foreign languages will put children into the right place in terms of high schools. And just because they take French in the middle schools doesn't mean that they have to take French in the high schools. It is a language that many children will not gravitate towards. And also, in terms of our philosophy here at New Voices, we always look for the best teachers that we can hire for our children. And when I say for our children, I also mean my own children. I really look at children here at New Voices as my own. They're part of my family. All families here are part of my extended family here. That's how I look at things. And when we were hiring foreign language teachers in the past, we did have an opening, and I hired the best teacher as opposed to finding a teacher that just fit a program. And when we went through that process, Mr. Nason is an amazing teacher, and he was just someone that I had to bring on board. And he does such great work with the children. He is teaching them French. He is going at their own pace. Children are working individually on material that is really geared towards where they are. They are using technology. They are working at their own individual paces. It is very differentiated. There's a tremendous amount of conversation that's going on in class, but also from the pictures that you're seeing, there is a tremendous amount of technology. We do use the iPads in French, and children are put into a level that is appropriate for where they are in terms of their language acquisition. Now, we do offer Regents level classes here at New Voices. Our science program is geared around the living environment, and our math program is geared around the algebra regions. Now, in sixth grade, we're trying to accelerate all children from the time they enter the building so they can all function in a high school level algebra class. Same thing in science. One thing I do want you to know, this is not for certain groups of students. All children at New Voices, when they are in the eighth grade, will be able to take the living environment regents and the ninth grade algebra regents for New York State. And if they receive a score that is high enough, they will get high school credit. So this is something that is available to all children. All children have access to it. And it is our job as teachers to get them to the point that they are really successful in these rigorous academic classes. Now, each of these I'm going to talk about a little separately in terms of the programs. Math, from the time they are entering in the sixth grade to the time they leave here, we try to really push them in terms of their mathematical thinking. The math program here is a combination of conceptual thinking about math and also the drill and skill that children require to be able to be successful in a high school level class. And I will keep on talking about high school because it is important to remember it's the job of the middle schools to get them ready for these classes in the high schools. We're not doing children any justice at all if we're not exposing them to these disciplines and having high expectations and trying to push them as hard as we can. And I don't want you to think that we're just throwing material out there for them and expecting them to be able to do it. We are scaffolding the material and we're providing them all the supports in the middle school environment so that we can better prepare them for their next step in this journey of education. So, math, we are embedding algebraic principles as early as grade 6. In grade 7, we start to accelerate all the children in New Voices, because by the time they get to 8th grade, they are now in a ninth grade Regents level class. Now, they don't have to take the exam at the end of the year. If the parents feel that their child will be very successful in this, they can avail themselves of the Regents and try to get high school credit. Now, if the child doesn't take the Regents, it doesn't mean that this has been an effort in futility. Just exposing children to this class and teaching them how to be successful in a high school environment is very important for our children, because New Voices students will leave here fully prepared for the next level. I always have children coming back and telling us here at New Voices that many of the things that they're doing in ninth grade are things that they were exposed to in grade 8. And it just helped their transition from one phase to the other in terms of their academic development. Now, science is living environment. In 6th grade, we look at scientific inquiry in depth. And then once they get into 7th grade, we begin our living environment course. Now, living environment is traditionally a 1 year class in the ninth grade in high school. But what we're trying to do here in New Voices is to teach children, just like we're doing in math, how to be successful in a course like this. So we've taken the curriculum, which is a 10-month high school curriculum, and we've spread it over a 2 year period. So we are really giving children an extensive level of scaffolding so that they are successful in living environment. Now, as part of this, we're looking at topics such as ecology, we're looking at genetics, we're looking at biochemistry, body systems, cells, life functions, and so on. In the 7th grade, as a culminating piece to what they've studied in the 7th grade, we do go into dissections. We're not doing dissections virtually. We are doing it in real life in the classrooms. And if your child is squeamish, please don't worry about, oh, my child can't do it. Those children that can't do it, they will have a role in the classroom, but we never force anyone into this. And to be honest with you, in probably the last 6 years that we've been doing this, maybe I only had about 2 or 3 children in all those years that wasn't able to participate in some way. What we're trying to do with regards to the dissections, and I want you to understand, it's just not something we do for the sake of doing it. Children are learning about body systems and life functions and how our organs all work together in maintaining homeostasis in the body. And we study the human organism, and we also study other organisms. So by doing the dissections, and we do use rats, and please know you don't have to supply your own rats. We do supply those here, and they have already been packaged in, at farms for this purpose, for education purposes. So children are not killing their rats. So please don't worry about that. Children are looking at the human body and comparing it to the rodent, and we're looking at similarities and differences between the structures of the organ systems. And most of the children are surprised when they see how many similarities there are between the human organism and other organisms in the animal kingdom, because we do look at classification as part of science here at New Voices. We look at all the different levels and the different taxa that organisms fall in, and we're looking at similarities and differences in why organisms are classified in certain taxa as opposed to others as part of our study of living environment. Same as the algebra class, children at the end of the 2 year study here can opt to take the living environment regents class. And if children are passing both the living environment and they're passing the algebra, they really are, in essence, they're getting 2 credits towards high school. And they can now begin to look at higher level classes when they're in their junior and senior year because they got several, excuse me, not many, several of the entry level classes out of the way. So it broadens children's horizons and it gives them more opportunities in terms of taking higher level courses as they progress through high school. Now, our arts programs. Now, I would probably say about 60% of the children's day is in the academic side, and about 40% of their day is probably around in the arts classes, especially in the 6th grade. Now, I explained to you the different art classes that we have and how the 6th graders get all of these art classes. But now in the 7th and the 8th grade, they're only going to be getting one. At the end of grade 6, the children are requesting an art form that they want to study for a 2 year period, an intense study, where in grade 6, they were getting a foundations and exposure to each of the arts classes. Now in the 7th and the 8th grade, they're really going to get an in-depth and rigorous study of that art form. First art form that we offer is dance, which many of you may have your children in dance studios outside of school. Many of you may not. This is in the 6th grade, one of the classes that all 6th graders take. And like I said, it's a very much an introduction to dance, looking at the basic elements of dance, body, space, relationship, and dynamics. Please do not concern yourself with children having to wear dance wear in grade 6. It is not that type of class in grade 6. It is about appreciation, how to create dance through an idea or through a reading or a concept, working together, being able to collaboratively as a class put on a dance, and all children will be performing for their parents at some point during grade 6 as a conclusion to their study to dance. So it is, and all the arts classes are basically putting the art form into practice. If we're not exposing children to the arts and putting it to practice, there really is no point to even doing this. So it is important, and children do leave the dance program in grade 6 with an appreciation of it. Whether or not they want to be a dance major in grade 7 and 8, that's irrelevant. Those that do decide to move on to dance as a full-time study in grade 7 and grade 8, they are prepared for it through their study in grade 6, and in grade 7 and 8 they are really getting an intense study. Some of the children will go on to some of the high schools and continue their study of dance. Now, the second art form is chorus. Very simply, we all know what chorus is. Children are going to be working as ensembles. They are understanding how to read music, how to write music, and how to vocalize music. They're learning how to work together in grade 6, same as dance. They are putting on a performance for their parents as a culminating project. And then in grade 7 and 8, it becomes a very intense study of chorus and vocalization. Visual arts is what most people think about when they hear of arts. It is studio drawing. The children will be painting, they'll be drawing, they'll be sketching, they'll be looking at different artists throughout periods of time and looking at their work and trying to replicate some of their techniques. Children are working with a variety of different mediums. They're doing the 2-dimensional art, they're going to the 3-dimensional art. We use a lot of recycled materials and teaching children how they can create artwork from recycled materials. Children are really starting to understand how they can create art and how to appreciate and how to be able to speak about artwork and question and offer critiques and suggestions and so on. Graphic arts is using the iMac computers. in creating artwork. Children are learning a variety of different software programs. The centerpiece of our graphic arts program are the Adobe Suite programs, where children are really getting a very rigorous understanding and exposure to these pieces of software that are very quite intricate. Children will do some basic Photoshop, and it could progress all the way up to animation programs. Now, in terms of our graphic arts program, we are embedding more STEM principles into this so that there are some connections between our STEM program, which I'm going to be talking about in a bit, and our graphic arts program. Theater is centered around stage performances. Children are, now this is not musical theater, this is straight theatrical productions. Children are learning all of the nuances of theater. They're learning about how to stage, how to write, how to costume, how to build sets. Some of the children are going on to the high schools and continuing their studies. A number of our children get into the Murrow program, into their theater program. The program is looking at theater as a way to express oneself and to convey emotions and meaning. There are many different types of theater that our teacher will expose children to, from story theater to pantomime to full-blown productions, to scene studies. So children will get a very broad exposure to theater, and not only from the onstage but also to the back theater piece, where children are supporting their friends who are on stage by doing all of the stagehand jobs, helping them to stage their productions, and so on. Now, the STEM program is relatively new here at New Voices. We've probably had about 4 years under our belt with this program. The whole point of STEM is not only to expose them to STEM, but also to have children do STEM. It's not supposed to be, STEM is not supposed to be a program where children just do things on computers and virtually, and that's it. We want our children to be able to look at STEM, look at scientific principles, and able to create solutions with their hands. So there are a number of tools that children will use in the STEM program, from the basic screw guns and screwdrivers and so on, all going all the way up to the three-dimensional printers, and also even going even further to robotics. So STEM is really putting science into practice, coming up with a solution to a problem, and not only coming up with the solution, but seeing if they can create that solution. So going from pen and paper and really putting into practice, pushing children to think in a different way in terms of science, because science really is a way of thinking, not only a way of doing. Now, we do have after school programs. I started talking about them before. These programs are, we have a partnership with a community-based organization called NIA. They provide a free after school program for our children in the arts, in the sports, in the academics. The academics are either remediation or enrichment programs. It does begin at 2:35 in the afternoon, and it goes all the way to 5:30, 5 days a week. Now, parents do not have to have their children enrolled in all 5 days. This, like I said, is a free program. It is paid for by New York City, and we will continue to have this program provided that the economic situation that we find ourselves in allows such programs. We're very proud of this program. We're very proud of all the things that they've done. Many of the New Voices teachers work with the children after school, and they also bring in outside providers. Now, some of the other after school programs that we have that are outside of this community-based organization, one of which is our after school musical production. Now, last year, Because of the pandemic, we weren't able to put on our performance. Last year's production was High School Musical, so I didn't have any photos of this. The year before was Legally Blonde. Now, this is a production, and when we talk about the after school musicals, this is open to all children at New Voices. It is by audition. So we have a number of sixth graders coming into the school who are very passionate about, getting a spot in the musical, and they do amazing work. We also have a number of seventh and eighth graders who return to the musical year after year, and they continue their study of musical theater. And it's something that they're passionate about, and they'll go on to high schools looking to continue this. But it is a student run program. They are the backstage, they are the costume designers, they are the makeup artists, they are the stage hands, they are in charge of props, they are the performers. So this is a very big production. There are many children involved in this, and everyone has their role in this. Like I said, 2 years ago, it was Legally Blonde. We've done productions such as Pirates of Penzance, Annie, Grease, Legally Blonde. Last year was High School Musical. Anything Goes. So every year we try to change it up a little bit and expose the children to a different musical. And it is a full production. It is not a watered down version. So on the website, you will see some links to past productions. I believe that we put our Mamma Mia production there, which was about 4 years ago. I really do welcome you. I really do encourage you, excuse me, to avail yourselves of our website and see some of the productions and see how intense the production is. And you could see how passionate the children are here and how passionate we as educators are to really teach children and so that they can be successful in these productions. Also, we have a technical theater program. That is an after school program. I talked about children being the stagehands and so on, but we also have a separate program where our techies are the ones actually running the technical side of the show. They are running the mics, they are running the lights, they are the directors, they are calling the cues. We're teaching children all of this side of theatrical and musical productions so that if they do choose to continue this study in the high schools, and there are high schools that have technical theater programs, they are well equipped to do so. So this is also an after school program and is something that we are very proud of. And every year, just like every other program at New Voices, we're constantly adding to. Now, I know there are many other questions that you may have, and not having an open forum like some of the other schools are having, it may be a little bit challenging and it may be a little discouraging, but I do want you to email my parent coordinator if you do have some questions, things that I did not speak about in my little talk about New Voices. Her name is Enid Para. Her email is epara2@schools.nyc.gov. Give us some time to respond and we will gladly answer your questions. Please know that here at New Voices, we are very passionate about teaching and learning, not just the arts component, but also the academic piece. The academics and the arts go hand in hand here at New Voices. Um, the arts program is very much tied into the academic piece. The arts program is our social emotional component to the school where children are learning about themselves, learning how to express themselves, learning how to um, really get an understanding of who they are, how they think, how they feel, and being able to convey that through the arts. But it's also continued in the academics. And some of the studies that we do have that I forgot to speak about, I do apologize, is that we're looking at how we are building community here at New Voices, and we're embedding that in our academic piece in addition to the arts pieces. So children are constantly talking about their relationships in terms of where they fit in a community, how they feel, if things are bothering them in a very safe space with the help of our teachers and being able to learn how to speak up for themselves, how to be assertive as opposed to being aggressive, because many times children just don't understand the difference between the two. Everyone here at New Voices is given respect. And that is one thing that we do teach children. And we also want children to be able to speak up for themselves and be able to demand respect. And everything we do here in terms of the academics and the arts really is geared towards that, in addition to pushing them artistically and academically in a very rigorous way. So I hope that I was able to answer most of your questions. And if you do have other questions, please feel free to reach out to Ms. Para. I thank you for your time, and I hope to see many of you next year as students of New Voices. Be well.